G'day, young men and women. Here we are for our Thursday night wrap. We're going to be going into a little bit more detail into this game because there's a fair few fantasy relevant players and a bunch of really good scores actually. So we're starting off with obviously the Rabbitohs beating the Broncos 46-0. A beautiful game for all Broncos fans. Good to see that the Rabbitohs got a bit of a roll on because they haven't been playing their absolute best lately, but having all their players back would have been really helpful for them to get that continuity back and push forward into obviously a week off next week. Just with the Origin at the end of it. So hopefully that the rest of their team can come back in round 16 and have a good game before losing a few of the Origin guys again for 17. But Dane Gagai, we've spoken about him as a lot of people were looking to move him on. I had a few questions about him, and thankfully I told them to hold. I don't know if they end up doing so, but for someone in the centres and the wing fullback as a dual position, averaging 47, yes, it was a little bit lower before this game, like in the 44 mark, but 47 average in there in a really strong side that's going to be around the top four. I think we saw at the start of the year how important he was to anyone who picked him up early, and yes, he's lost some cash since, but 475, anything in the mid 40s is going to be good. So if you hold him, well done. But a pretty amazing game for him. Just no real negatives apart from -4 with the errors there, but just an awesome game for him. And we move on to Matty Lodge, and gee, wasn't he strong? 42 tackles and 160 meters, so 58 in the base there. 7 tackle breaks, 5 offloads. So 76 minutes played in this one, which is really interesting. Obviously, with a few of their guys, going down injured and going off early in that first half with who they have there. Arthur's off early, and then someone else. Fleeks didn't play as much. Who was it? Cobbo, yeah. Arthur's and Cobbo going off early, so Lodge had to play big minutes there. And if you're someone that owns him, you've absolutely dominated. Actually, again shows that he was going to be a pretty solid selection at the start of the year. He's now gained 156k, and he'll be up near a 200k gainer by the end of this week. So 76 minutes for him at 79 points was awesome. I wouldn't be thinking about picking him up. I just think he's going to be too expensive now for someone that won't be getting those minutes every week. But still a great option for those that have him currently. Cam Murray was 76 and he's 69 minutes. So again, one of those guys that has dual position is averaging 53.2 and is going to be a little bit higher in the price after this week. But someone that really you can just sit there and hold for the majority of the year from here on, and be feel fairly safe that he's gonna continue averaging that. Obviously, he's been one of those players that's been a bit up and down, but you know that over the course of the season, what kind of average you're going to get. So that's Muzz there. Campbell Graham was someone I was talking about. There could be a solid pickup coming into this round 17 buy fixture, and at 465k is going to be higher than that after this week, but not too much higher because he had a fairly high break even in the 50s there. So for Graham, definitely keep an eye out on him. As someone who's under 500k, as a lot of the center options we're talking about at the moment are sort of 500k plus. So if you need an option there, then Graham's your man. Obviously 2 tries, you won't be doing that every week, but really good effort for him. Cody Walker with 3 try assists was really solid in that game. Obviously, someone who hasn't been averaging that well this year, and I still think is not a great option going forward. I think there's a few better halves, even just as simple as using Averillo in the halves rather than Walker, for example. Payne Haas with 58, so 64 minutes for him and 58 points. Just not dominating like he has in past years. Obviously, you can tell that by his neg 278k that he's got down to, and 689k is a very intriguing option, especially after round 17 or 18 when he's finished with Origin and he's ready to dominate for the Broncos, who are really struggling. I think that's probably the worst part of the moment, is just how bad their team's going, as to the roll on that he can get in terms of the offloads and the tackle breaks. So that's that for Payne Haas. Definitely an option after the Origin bye rounds. And Pangai Jr. there, so 58, but it looks like he's going to have to take an early guilty plea, because I don't know if he'll be able to get off that charge, especially with all the loading he's got. So usually they end up taking that early plea there. And there's the crazy talk that that Parker broke the news that they've asked him. You can look into signing with other clubs. So he must have a lot going on behind the scenes, and you can understand it as to, his gameplay on the field, that he's a bit up and down, and I imagine he's a bit like that in the off field stuff as well. There's obviously been a few things happening there, and I think Broncos have got jack of it, or they're not ready to pay him big money for someone who's a bit inconsistent, and fair enough. But in terms of fantasy this week, he scored 58, which is really good for everyone who owns him. But I think the worry from here on is going to be what's going to happen to him. Which clubs he going to go to? How many games is he going to miss? So he's probably going to be a trade out, unfortunately, which is not what we want when trades are becoming really scarce. And just think about that with your teams and the amount of trades we're making this week, especially when you could use 4. How many guys are left with very very limited trades? I saw someone in my comments was like, I'm down to 3 trades, guys. Wish me luck. With only just over half the season finished, so pretty funny. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who benefits from Pango Jr. getting out of that edge position. Will Ricky come back in? Will they use Rabadi, or will they keep him on? Will they use him on the edge? If they do, then he becomes an intriguing option. Just the worry with the Broncos players is how many is them missing round 17. So something to think about there. But yeah, Rabadi played really well, and he's going to be up in the in the 300k marks after this week with a couple of good games there. Tyson Gamble's he's come out and he's averaged 40 in the end, and across this bunch of games that he's played, and will be up over 400k. So I think with Gamble, you just gotta ride him out. You've got this game, he'll be up around that 420 mark, 430, and then he'll get one more game for you before the buy round, and that might be enough to get him. If he scores another 50, it'll be enough to get him up closer to 500k, and that might be a really good option or opportunity to downgrade him or upgrade him there. So I think Gamble's actually done a really good job for anyone that took the plunge with him. Obviously a 60 last week and a 51. Hopefully you've been able to utilize both those scores, but yeah, just been really solid. Like how much 45 of that is in base, so he has to do a little bit extra, run the ball a little bit, and the odd tackle break or turnover tackle, and you've got a really good scorer there. So, yeah, well done to anyone who owns Gamble. Off to Turpin there in 49, his 80 minutes is a solid effort, and I'm not sure how many people actually own him, but someone that I wouldn't be thinking about too much, and will definitely be moving on, I'd suggest, by round 17. Latrell Mitchell had a solid game, 48 there. I wouldn't. A few people decided to pick him up this week. I just thought it was a bit interesting with Origin there this week coming up, when everyone else has a rest, and then the round 17 one where he's going to be in the Origin squad as well. So I feel like he's someone that you can think to pick up a little bit later, so around 18 or 19. But yeah, that's that there. Johnston had a few guys that were looking to pick him up, and this is kind of what happened. He has a decent 42, but it's 2 tries in there, and he's 480k. I don't see the thought behind it, but if you're playing Supercoach, then that's a different one. He's going to be averaging 70 plus in Supercoach because tries are worth 17 and he's scoring 1,000 of them. So that's the one here. How many 20 something tries behind Nathan Merritt already, and he's only my age. He's only 26. So yeah, awesome work for Johnson. And I can't believe they didn't even want to keep him. Anyway, Farnworth for 41. If anyone still has him, the big issue here is going to be Damien Cook. So 38 in his 76 minutes. Missing a bunch of tackles, which is not very normal for him. Like you expect him to be 45, 50 tackles for 1-2 misses, and that's kind of what's killing him in this game. Only running the ball a couple of times, got a couple offloads and a tackle break, but just really hasn't been his year, has he? He's still obviously averaging 57, which is great, but it's not the 64 that we had him pegged out at the start of the year. Do you continue holding him? I've said it all year. You just do it. You probably just keep holding him. But yeah, the 38s in between the 60s and 70s is not good to see, especially when you're hoping for a nice solid score each week. Colin Matangi, another one that people were very interested in picking up, and I just think he's way too inconsistent. He's not going to be a keeper. He's not going to make you a lot of money from here, so I just think he's an avoid at this stage for sure. And then the Reynolds one obviously went off with a HIA. He managed to pass that thankfully and come back on, but it just wasn't a game where he had to do too much. It's just spread the ball early, let the outside backs do their thing with Gags and Graham and Latrell to do their thing, and they did a good job. But for Reynolds, it was just kicking the goals, and didn't have to kick as much either as I was making so many breaks, etc. So just not a great game for him. He scores a lot better against the better teams, I think, when he has to kick more, and he has to come up with a lot more of the try assist rather than the outside back. So that's that for Reynolds, but I wouldn't be too stressed about that score. He obviously played 9 less minutes and might not have been feeling himself when he came back on, so he decided to just distribute the ball a little bit more. So I wouldn't be stressing there. Cobbo we'll talk about, who was doing really well, 28 in his 22 minutes before going off. So if you picked him up a couple of weeks ago or last week, then unfortunately he didn't pass his HIA in return, but that's that. Unfortunately, the next and one of the most important ones here is Flegler. So thankfully, the People's Squad, we actually moved him on this week, but he becomes a pretty urgent one over the next week or two to move on at that 430 price point. He'll be a little bit less after this week with the lower score, but just not getting the minutes. And when you see Lodge getting 76 minutes, it's interesting that they're really pushing him that hard when they're already down like 30 odd. I don't see why they were. Why don't they keep one of the younger guys on and blood them a little bit more rather than grinding Lodge into the ground when it wasn't even a close game. So yeah, Flegg should be getting more minutes, but obviously they're not as happy with his work, and I'll let the young guys work as to why they're not keeping him on. So yeah, Fleggs needs to go very, very shortly. I suppose the last most important one to talk about is Carmichael Hunt, and I think when Kelly comes back, if you're holding Kelly, I think you got to keep holding him. When he comes back, I think that it'll end up being Kelly and Gamble again. They actually, they won a game with that combination. Carmichael Hunt just doesn't look. Obviously, he's getting fairly old now in footy terms, and just isn't playing that well. To be fair, obviously the team's not very good, but just him in general. And Kelly at least was creating some things, and Hunt hasn't really done that in those couple of games since he's come back. So for those that picked him up, then it was a bit of a rough one to do that. 2.5% picked him up, so he's just going to be sitting on your bench doing nothing for the rest of the year. So yeah, a little bit annoying for Carmichael, and I think you're definitely going to hold Kelly there. If you held Tessie Newell this time, he's still sitting there, then you get a nice 14 and a price drop this week, which is just exactly what you need. Yeah, try saver, 125 meters, six kick defusals, and still only gets 14. So yeah, tough times. And if you were someone that's picked up an Arthurs or a Palaszczuk over the last bunch of weeks, then a 2 and a 5 is not really what you're looking for. And that's the thing with these guys that are fringe players that might get a couple of games, especially in a bad team that not a lot of the time it actually works out. So that's that, guys, on those players there in this game. I thought there was a fair bit of fantasy relevant information. I thought I'd drop that to you there. Please hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying these, guys. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one, which is going to be our Friday night games. See you later, guys.